morning, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm Whitney Ward. Hard to believe we are now halfway through our third week of social distancing. And at KREM 2, that means Mark Hanrahan is anchoring from home once again. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Whitney, good afternoon. Yeah, it doesn't really feel normal per se to anchor from my living room, but I guess more normal the more time goes on that we're doing this. But unless it was, nice outside today, we got to get outside and enjoy some of the sunshine. We'll talk about that more in a moment. We want to get straight, though, to some breaking news right now. We have learned this afternoon that one of the two veterans infected with the coronavirus at the Spokane Veterans Home has died. That news coming in late this afternoon from the VA. Let's get straight to KREM 2's Regina On. She is live in the newsroom tonight with what we know so far. Regina?
Well, Mark, we're told that the Spokane veteran who died did have underlying medical conditions. Another resident who also tested positive is, however, showing some signs of improvement today, according to the VA, and currently getting treatment. You'll recall two veterans tested positive more than a week after an employee at the Spokane Veterans Home tested positive. We're told the two residents were roommates and they were already isolated when symptoms arrived. The employee returned to work 4 days after testing because they were not showing symptoms. The Veterans Home didn't say if it's believed that the cases are linked. Staff are now using personal protective equipment while awaiting those test results. Meantime, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs office says 5 other veterans in the Spokane area have tested positive for the coronavirus. They were tested at Grandstaff VA Medical Center. The wait time for those test results is typically a couple of days. Another VA medical center in California has offered to test samples from Spokane and deliver results online. Right now, all residents at the Spokane Veterans Home are being monitored for symptoms and no others have pending test results at this time. The VA did make a statement today saying their hearts go out to the veterans' family and their time of loss. In the newsroom tonight, Regina On, back to you, Mark.
All right, Regina, thank you very much. And today, several unions representing nurses and healthcare workers have joined together to demand hazard pay for those healthcare workers on the front lines in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. Last week, the Washington State Nurses Association called on local, state, and federal governments to provide, quote, transparent, updated information on the response to COVID-19 pandemic and expressed concerns about the personal protective equipment shortfalls.
Until it hits home and you have someone that you know or you love that gets sick, it's easy to have kind of a laissez-faire attitude about it.
Healthcare workers in North Idaho are speaking out against people defying stay-at-home orders. This as some elected officials are calling on the governor to reverse the stay-at-home order, arguing it's a violation of their constitutional rights. KREM 2's Tim Pham tells us why several healthcare workers say that is the wrong message.
It is not the role of government in a free society to tell us what we can and cannot do.
It's statements like this from Idaho State Representative Heather Scott that has North Idaho health officials concerned.
All of that progress that we have made could be thrown away at the drop of a hat because we don't know everybody. We haven't tested everybody. We don't know who is infected and who is not.
Dr. Benjamin Good and his wife Stacy with Bonner General Health says the social distancing efforts in Idaho are working. New cases are being reported, but not as many since the pandemic started. But some elected officials and leaders are pushing back, saying the stay-at-home order is unconstitutional and infringes on religious liberties.
We have a God-given, constitutionally protected right to peacefully assemble. That means no one can take that right away from you, and you should not be bullied and intimidated to give up your rights.
What would you say to people who say that not being able to gather is a violation of their constitutional rights during a time like this?
I'm not a constitutional scholar. I'm a doctor. That's what I'm an expert in. And I want to see my friends too. I get it. I want to. But I also don't want to have to tell families that their loved one's dead.
North Idaho lawmaker and pastor Tim Remington called the stay-at-home order a gimmick and still held a church service less than 2 weeks ago. The church has now moved to online service, with Easter Sunday looming. Far-right activist Ammon Bundy, who led a militia standoff in Oregon in 2016, says he's working to find a gathering space for hundreds of churchgoers on Sunday.
Helping a church group be able to have worship services on Easter. how it is basically an effort to show that these rights belong to the people and not to the state.
Medical professionals say the state is seeing momentum in the right direction, and we need to hold on a little longer.
Don't take legal advice from a doctor, and don't take medical advice from a sheriff or a state representative.
Reporting in Spokane, I'm Tim Pham, KREM 2 News.
In Washington, there are now 421 coronavirus deaths amid more than 9,000 total cases statewide. Close to 90,000 people in Washington have been tested so far. That means 8.6% of the cases tested are positive. Meantime, there are 239 cases in Spokane County. 13 deaths have been confirmed as of today. More than 40 people have been hospitalized and 15 are still receiving care. Across the state line into Idaho, there are now just over 1,200 confirmed cases. Kootenai County now reporting 42 confirmed cases, and Bonner County now has 3. 15 deaths have been linked to the virus, along with 93 total hospitalizations. Well, the CDC is expected to release new guidelines this week about critical workers returning to work. This would ease restrictions for some essential employees to return to work if they are asymptomatic, test their temperature twice a day, and wear a face mask. Top health officials say they are starting to see a flattening in the curve of the COVID-19 cases in some metropolitan areas, but still urge caution. The Trump administration also announced it has inked its first contract under the Defense Production Act with General Motors for 30,000 ventilators by August.
All right, Mark, thank you very much. Dr. Fauci, who is the main physician on the White House Coronavirus Task Force, made headlines recently for saying up to 50% of people with coronavirus may not have symptoms. In Iceland, they have been testing people who don't have symptoms as well as those that do. They're testing the general population throughout Iceland to get a better idea of how the virus spreads. The results of those tests show that 50% of people diagnosed, at least there in Iceland, have reported no symptoms at all. These findings could explain why some communities are having such a hard time containing the pandemic. It also could explain why officials continue to emphasize social distancing and are still asking everyone to continue wearing a mask. Washington's Air National Guardsmen are now on the front lines of packing and distributing food to families across Spokane and in our surrounding areas. They're now working this week with Second Harvest Inland Northwest. KREM 2's Amanda Rowley shares now why their efforts are critical to helping our community right now.
Second Harvest Inland Northwest is volunteer-driven. It relies on about 400 volunteers to fulfill its food packing and distribution needs. But during the coronavirus crisis, that number of volunteers took a big hit.
In the COVID-19 environment, many of the people that have time to volunteer, retirees, fall into high-risk categories as identified by the CDC, and they're unable to come down and volunteer.
Drew Moyer with Second Harvest adds, as the number of unemployment claims soar in Washington state, so does the need for food banks.
As those initial unemployment claims start to rise, we're definitely seeing a correlation with the number of people seeking food assistance.
So with fewer volunteers and more work, that's where Washington Air National Guard comes in.
It's a need, and our guardsmen are stepping up, knowing it's a very important need across the state.
This week, 47 guardsmen from the 141st Air Refueling Wing are working with Second Harvest to help with the increased need for food in the Spokane area.
It's positive in both ways. From a guard standpoint, our folks just love helping out their neighbors.
Before the coronavirus, Second Harvest typically distributed about 150,000 pounds of food each week. Maurer says last week it distributed 600,000 pounds.
We have distributed more each of the last couple of weeks, and that trend is likely to continue.
As guardsmen work alongside volunteers, they are packing boxes mixed with dry food and perishables. Maurer says each donation is packaged with about 4 days worth of food for about 5 people.
Just been a really welcome addition to the group, and they are making a tremendous difference out in our warehouse.
Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
A big thanks to everyone making that effort possible. All right, let's move on to weather now. Tomorrow and Friday expected that could actually reach into the 70s in Spokane. Tom Sherry is outside enjoying the sunshine. I feel like we're all just kind of like cats, you know, where you gravitate to the sunshine and just sprawl out. I know, that was me today.
It's the best. It's the best, and it's right there. I love you, son. I'm like a plant.
Yeah.
I kid you not. We talked about how today was the warmest day of 2020, and tomorrow's going to be maybe 5 degrees warmer, 6 degrees warmer than what we see today, and then we may hit the 70 right on Friday. And then we've got some cooler weather moving in for the weekend. Let's go right to the satellite and radar picture for you folks, and you'll see we've got no cloud cover occurring anywhere across the region. No precipitation, obviously, not unless you go up towards northwestern Montana. So look for a beautiful night tonight and an almost full moon tonight. 35 will be the overnight low. We'll look for a daytime high of 68 on Thursday. Gosh, isn't that great? Average high temperatures 55. And your weekend forecast calls for windy, cloudy weather on Saturday. We'll probably see some showers, cooler with a high of 51. Mostly sunny on Sunday, still a little below average though. We'll look for a daytime high of 50. I'll check out your 7-day forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, sounds good, Tom. Thank you very much. Well, Senator Bernie Sanders made it official today, announcing he is suspending his presidential campaign. That decision now clears the way for former Vice President Joe Biden to officially become the Democratic nominee.
I congratulate Joe Biden, a very decent man, who I will work with to move our progressive ideas forward.
So this now means that Biden will challenge President Trump in November. Biden pledged to follow through with some of Sanders' ideas, though. Sanders encouraged his supporters to keep pushing for policy change, saying he will stay on the ballot and continue to collect delegates to have an impact on the Democratic Party platform. Well, back here at home, a local soccer coach is coming out of isolation in his own home after recovering from coronavirus. We're going to hear all about his experience coming up right after the break.